And one of the habits that I took from that time was read a book a month. So I recommend people should read 10 a day, either 10 minutes or 10 pages every day, because that will transform their thinking over time. And it's our thinking that keeps us stuck.
Yes, we have the wonderful Colm O'Brien on the podcast episode today. Really looking forward to this one. On today's show with Colm, we're going to be talking all about how to grow your life and your business and success principles that Colm lived by, success principles that will help you to move forward in your life, and also learning the skill sets to build a business that is sustainable. We're also going to be looking at identifying a wonderful, important goal for you, and having someone to hold you accountable as well. That's really important. Colm is also going to be talking to us about the principle of the Rachet, and we're going to be talking a lot about self-care, including sleep, which is really important for your health and well-being. But remember, please do, if you like this content, please like this video. And please share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to this YouTube channel as well to get more great content like this. So let's get on with the show.
Okay, hello everybody, and you're very welcome to the Empowering Family podcast. Today I have an incredible guest. I'm really excited to introduce Colm O'Brien, but first let me call out his bio. Let me tell you all about this wonderful man. Colm is a business owner, a coach and a blogger and a TEDx speaker. And he is a published best-selling author as well. He is an accredited thought leader in entrepreneur development, and he's a motivational speaker. And outside of that, he volunteers on the boards of Kerry, which is Children at Risk in Ireland. And he's a board member there, and the Lime Tree Theatre in Limerick as a chairman. And he is also the proud father of 3 adult children. They're always children, aren't they? And he is passionate about leadership and role modeling for the next generation. And I just absolutely love that, Colm. Colm, you're very welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Joanne, do you know what? It's a great pleasure. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for that. And that bio sounds great. Well done, you.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, I picked that up somewhere there on the internet.
Yeah.
So Colm, listen, you're involved in so many things, and I just want to really, get the best out of this conversation we have together. And you've so many, I've been following you there, and you're involved in so many different projects and with so many different people. So tell us just a brief outline what you do. And, most of us know you for your Coffee at 11 and your coffee podcast. So can you tell us just a little bit about a brief thing about what you actually do and why you're passionate about it, Colm?
Well, first of all, it's great to be here, right? It's lovely to have the chat. Thank you, Joanne. Thanks for inviting me along. And do you know what? It's a bit of a journey. I've just come off another Zoom call. Of course, we're all Zoomed out of these days. And by the way, I'm a huge fan of Zoom. It has just been so productive. It's been wonderful. But I wanted to be a school teacher when I left school 173 years ago, right? And I didn't get the honour in Irish that you need to get into teacher training college here in Ireland. So I didn't get the honour in Irish, and I stumbled into hospitality, right? And I went to work, and I was always taught to work hard by mum and dad, great role models. And so I got stuck into working really hard and roll on a whole bunch of years. So that was 1980. And by mid-90s, I was burned out, absolutely burned out by everything, the relentlessness of it. The hamster wheel, get up and go to work and earn a paycheck and get up and go to work. And I got fed up. So I began to study business principles. I wondered how somebody stayed stuck in the hamster wheel and somebody got ahead. There had to be something there. Stumbled into multi-level marketing, as many people do. And I'm a fan of MLM from the perspective of it's a great training ground. I never made any money in it, and I make no secret of that whatsoever. But I gave it a good 10 years, and I learned bucket loads about me and about rejection and about all sorts of stuff, right? And about business principles. And one of the habits that I took from that time was read a book a month. So I recommend people should read 10 a day, either 10 minutes or 10 pages every day, because that will transform their thinking over time. And it's our thinking that keeps us stuck. So I was an employee. Why? Because my dad was an employee. Why? Because his dad was an employee. Why? Because his dad was an employee.
Yeah.
So that was what was bred into me. So I decided eventually to step out and into the world of being self-employed. But I didn't like that concept either, because self-employed to me reminds me of work. Self-employed, cafe catering was my background. So the self-employed coffee shop owner is the guy who throws up the shutter at 7:30 in the morning, switches on the lights, makes the coffee, fries the rashers, takes your order, takes the money, delivers all the stuff, right? Washes up after you, says goodbye and starts again, and does that ad infinitum. That to me describes the self-employed individual. I was fascinated, a great book I read, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, followed by the second one in that series, the cash flow quadrant. And that changed my thinking. And I realized I didn't want to be an employee, which I was. I didn't want to be self-employed. I wanted to learn how to become a business owner, right? The four quadrants: employed, self-employed, business owner, investor. I wanted to learn to become a business owner. So I set on that path 20 odd years ago and stepped into what looked like self-employment in 1998 when myself and Aidan came to Limerick first. We took on the Bewley's Café in Limerick. But the reason we took on that particular cafe was because there was a team. It was big enough for it to be run whether I was there or not. I just had to then learn the skills of setting it up and letting go, if that makes sense. And when I was in the process of all that, Joanne, my business failed. That business crashed, right? Early 2000 for a whole series of reasons, but fundamentally that business died. And from the ashes of that stumbled into a school lunch business, and we started supplying 27 children on our first day 17 years ago. Actually, in this semester, between Christmas and September and Christmas, 17 years ago, 2003. And today, while I'm talking to you, it's even better. It's 9:45 now. So while I'm sitting here talking to you on Zoom, having a cup of coffee, the business that we founded back then will supply over 30,000 children today. And the great thing is I didn't make any of the sandwiches today, right? I'm not driving the van today. I'm not sending out the invoices today, but I did all that to kick the thing off and running. So that is what drives me, if you like, is I love people, I love business, and I hate work, right? And so I've been learning the skill sets over the years to figure out a way to build a business that is sustainable, that will last beyond me. I do not want to be, I'm somewhat in the coaching space, but I'm actually building a coaching business. I don't want to be the best coach in the world. I never will be the best coach in the worworld. It's not what I'm born to do. But I absolutely believe that I'm building a world-class coaching business that will span the globe. And I cannot do that if it's just me, right? So that's what I'm learning to do. I'm learning to build sustainable business.
I love that, Colm, because there's so much in that. Because it's not just, I think the world that we're living in at the moment, the eye doesn't work. And, we came from the world of competition. And for me, competition just creates conflict and it doesn't work. And I think the world that we're going into now is a world of collaboration. And I just, Colm, I just love it and I welcome it and embrace it, because I can hear what you say. You don't want to be the best coach or the best whatever, because, there could be two holistic therapists, right? And some clients may be attracted to me, and then some clients may be attracted to the other person. And it's because we just have different personalities, and whatever works is perfect. Like, it really is perfect. There's no the best. Do you know what I mean? And I love what you said about that, Colm. Colm, tell us about probably one of your biggest challenges. I know you identified time been a big challenge for yourself as well, and you've overcome that. Tell us your concept around the week, the week and time, and you mentioned that in one of your recent podcasts. I love it.
Thanks for that. By the way, Joanne, anything that I share with you is not my own. It's all, I haven't stolen it. I've learned it from other people, right? Well, I'll tell you what's unique to Joanne Callahan and what's unique to Colm O'Brien is our recipe, right? So you take all the stuff that you learn from me and Donna and Pat and all these great people, right? And whoever, right? Bob Proctor and whomever it is out there. And you take all the bits that speak to you and then you put them together into the Joanne Callahan system. And I do the same in the Colm O'Brien system. So this concept that you're talking about is, and this phrase is my own: win the week, win the war. I love it. Win the week, win the war, right? And the book is on its way. Win the week, win the war. But it's founded in the principle that I learned from reading books, and it was Stephen Covey, author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And Stephen spoke about the week. This is a lovely phrase. The week is a perfect patch in the fabric of life. The week is a perfect patch in the fabric of life, right? And if you can imagine a week, you see it in your calendar there. You can see it in your mind's eye, right? You know, it's like a rectangle, okay? And it's 7 days wide and it's 24 hours deep, right? And, you know, the week is a perfect patch. And when that week is finished at midnight on Saturday or midnight on Sunday, depending when you start your week, I start my week on a Sunday morning. It's just the way I'm wired, right? It's a brand new week. And I have this image in my head, Joanne, that the year is like a patchwork quilt. If you got printed out all your calendar, week calendars from Outlook, let's say, they'd all be exactly the same size and shape, but they'd all be different colors because of the different stuff you've plotted out. So I have this image that the year is made up of 52 equally sized patches, but they're all different. And then our lives, I wrote a blog some time ago called fur-lined mousetraps and patchwork quilts, right? And the patchwork quilts thing was that the average lifespan here in Ireland is 81 years, okay? So therefore we've got 81 patchwork quilts, if you go back to my earlier analogy. And the real question is, how many of them have we already discarded? And for me, I'm in my 58th. So I'm in my 58th. So in March of next year, I'll have discarded 58 patchwork quilts of 81. And all of a sudden, you know, it's getting thinner, right? So the week is a perfect patch in the fabric of life. If we win the week, we win the war. Everything that you and I experience happens in a week somewhere. So the very best unit of time that I can promote to people, that I feel is the right thing to promote to people, is sort your week out. It's not about making every second count. I am absolutely not the guy who gets up on stage and jumps up and down, hustle.
Too much. Yeah, it's too much.
No interest. Absolutely no interest. But I love the concept of ratcheting my life forward in every aspect every week. And, you know, if you ratchet something forward, it'll stay there. It doesn't slip back. Ratchet forward slowly and methodically every single week. And there are 4 areas I recommend we consider: health, wealth, relationships, and spirit. Health, wealth, relationships, and spirit. And if you can imagine, if we were only to do 4 things in the week, we'll do 173 things. If we were only to achieve 4 things, wouldn't it be nice to ratchet forward in terms of our health somewhat, ratchet forward in terms of our wealth? Not necessarily riches, by the way. That's maybe getting out of debt. It's maybe, you know, getting a pay rise. It's maybe finding another client. It's whatever wealth means to you, right?
Of some sort.
Absolutely. You know, imagine ratcheting forward in terms of our relationship with our kids or with our spouses or with our friends, right? And in terms of spirit, it's about a relationship with ourselves. So imagine ratcheting forward and becoming a little more centered.
Yes.
So the week is a perfect patch in the fabric of life. Win the week, win the war.
Yeah, I love it. And for many people, you know, when I talk about sleep, and I'd put sleep in with health there as well, by the way. That's very important. Don't forget that. That's a very important part of our lifestyle as well, to be healthy. But yeah, for many people, I find, right, when I talk to my clients about sleep, you know, they're trying to get so much done in the day, and they're you know, grinding, and they're like, I can't go to bed yet until I have my project finished or whatever, you know. And I say to people, do you know something? You'll be more productive. You'll be more productive if you take time out during the daytime, because you're clearing that brain. You're allowing stuff to stick in your brain, right? Meditation, I think, is super important. Some people, like, it scares them, but I just think there's a misunderstanding there. I just think people don't understand meditation, but it's really taking time out. And Colm, what you said about relationships as well, when we're busy, and I hate that word because it sounds chaotic, but when people describe themselves as busy and on the go and not allowing themselves time out, because it's seen as a stigma of weakness and being lazy, right? And when we're being that way, we're being overproductive and what have you, but we're not prioritizing sleep, we're not prioritizing ourselves, and we're not allowing ourselves to develop and grow when we're busy responding or reacting to our external environment, right? We have to fill ourselves up first, I think, you know, before we can be of value to other people. And then you mentioned about relationships, and I think having that relationship with yourself, and when it comes to spiritual, what it is that you want in life, what gets you up out of bed in the morning, what's your drive, what's your purpose. And when you are aligned with that, you can relate to yourself so much better, and you'll have more outlook and be able to relate to people much better because you're filled up with what your own purpose is. What would you say on all of that, Colm?
I'll tell you what, I was writing a couple of notes there because it was loads in it, right? First of all, you'd be delighted to hear that my son gave me a Fitbit a couple of Christmases ago, right? And I use it to measure two things. And the first of those two things is sleep.
Good.
Right? I actually measure my sleep, right?
Yeah.
And it's really important to me. And I give myself a target of 7 hours per night. That's my target. I just checked it this morning, and it's 6.5 hours so far this week on average. But I know I get another half hour on the couch later on in the day, so it's cool. But I absolutely believe in what you promote, a good night's sleep. But it's actually the thing I measure first is my sleep. After that, I measure my steps, but I'm not bent out of shape about my steps. Very bent out of shape if I don't get my sleep.
Yeah.
Right?
You're not healthy unless your sleep is healthy.
It's for sure. And so when I'm going to bed at night, by the way, I start winding down at 9:30 at night. Okay, start going to bed and the lights out by 10:30. That's my thing, and I have my alarm set between 5:30 and 6. That gives me an exact 7 hours, if you like, in my night. You also mentioned about self-care, and you're absolutely right. A phrase I used, again, I wrote a blog about it called POYOOMF. It's an acronym, POYOOMF, and it stands for Put On Your Own Oxygen Mask First. Yeah. And it is, we heard about it when planes were a thing, you might recall, right? And adults were suggested, if in case of emergency, put on your own oxygen mask first, because only then are you sufficiently, looked after to allow you look after those around you. So important that we take that into life. Put on your own oxygen mask first, right? Self-care is not selfish. Lovely phrase. Self-care is not selfish, right? So we need to look after ourselves. And then when we look after ourselves, we can be of service to others. So I think you're absolutely on the right track in the work you do, Joanne.
Yeah, absolutely. And people ask me why did I get into sleep and all of that, And when I was doing my massage and Reiki, I have a big story, but just to give you the short version, all my clients were coming to me, and Pat Slattery asked me to write my book, and I hadn't got a clue what I was going to write a book about, so overwhelming. And all my clients that were coming to me were exhausted. They were really moody. They were complaining all the time. If you're complaining, there's something not working in your life. So I actually did that exercise on complaining, and I was just like, as a human being, like we're all human beings and we're all wired. We're living on the earth here 200,000 years. So we're all wired, a certain way. So it takes a bit of work to be conscious of how we're being. But all my clients were complaining and they were tired and exhausted. So that's why I wrote the book on sleep. And what I found through all my research was just profound. And everybody needs to know about sleep because it affects every single cell in our body, and all the different levels, like physically, mentally, your cognitive function, your emotional health, and your spiritual health. So giving you something to be excited for life about, and so that's why I'm into sleep. And it's profound. It really is. Everything is so much better when you have a good night's sleep.
For sure. In fact, you joined us this morning. Thank you for joining us in Wigwam as a guest. It was lovely to have you in the room. But as it happens, interestingly, no names mentioned, but I got a WhatsApp earlier from another invited guest who couldn't make it. Yeah, the WhatsApp came in at 5:09 this morning to say that person wouldn't make it because they'd had a sick child up all night and nobody got any sleep. And we're back to the same thing. Sleep is so important. It's so restorative.
Yeah, and look, life happens, and we can always control what happens, but we can be the victim if we say, oh, poor me, and look what happened to me, and minding our language and all of this. But life happens, as you say. But I think when you get a good night's sleep, and when this subject is turned into a sleep topic, right. But it is part of our health. But when you get a good night's sleep, right, you can be more resilient. And that lady or man, whoever it was, who was up all night with their child, they can bounce back a lot quicker when they generally do have a good night's sleep. So let me roll the conversation on, Colm, to role modeling for our children, since we're talking about kids. And actually, while I'm doing that, I said we were going to go to Facebook Live. So I'm just going to do it now. I know it's only halfway through the conversation here, so we're just going to go. So people on Facebook will just get the last few minutes. Is that all right with you, Colm?
Yeah, 100% fine. Yeah.
Brilliant.
I'll just ask you how to do this, actually, but anyway.
Yeah, I meant to do that at the beginning, but not to worry. But we're going to talk about, let me see, where am I going to put this to? on my page. Yeah, so let's talk about role modeling for our children. So for many people, our children, they really learn from our behavior, in my opinion. And, you know, children up to the age of 7, most people know that children don't do what you tell them. They do what you do. So they follow in your footsteps. And I think as a parent, it is really, really vital to understand how influential we are over our children. What tell us, I know you're a big advocate for role modeling. Tell us your experience and your opinion as to how role modeling impacts our children.
Well, I think you've nailed it in what you said. You know, they don't do what we say; they'll model what we do, and that is challenging and scary. Let's be honest, right? Because I'm not the perfect dad. You're probably the perfect mom, but I'm not the perfect dad.
I'm
Right?
not. I thought I was at one point.
So all we can do is do our best, right? In fact, the exercise we did this morning, you would have seen it in action, is the 80th birthday, and this is an interesting one, if I may. I think that we can tie this into the role modeling conversation here, right? So what we were talking about this morning, you might remember, was project yourself out to your 80th birthday. I'll be 80 on Easter Monday, the 30th of March, 2043. That's my 80th birthday, right? It's a Monday, and it's Easter Monday, as I mentioned. And the question we asked was, write down the name of 10 people you would like to have in the room at that point. And I have to assume that most parents would like to have their children there. In fact, one of our participants this morning got quite animated about having her children there, who are young kids at the moment, and her grandchildren, and she could see this whole picture unfolding. But of course, our children will only be there on our 80th birthday if we've been the right role model for them.
That's true.
You know, we can't expect to be little Hitlers or whatever. I'm only picking on a trait, and have them. What I want is I want them to want to be there.
Yes.
Yeah. I want them to want to be there, and thankfully there's a few years between now and then, because I haven't been a perfect dad to date. I haven't been bad, I don't think, but I haven't been a perfect dad to date. But I'm aware of it, and I've got to make some changes. And of course, my children are all adult now. Everybody who's listened to this will be coming at this from a different perspective. But our children pick up on what goes on at home. My mum and dad, both 82, and they taught us a lot. And they were great parents, but they weren't perfect parents, right? But they were great, and they did the best with what they had. And I'd like to think that we're all doing the best with what we have from where we are. As we know more, we can do better. You and I probably are proponents of personal development. We'll always be learning and growing forever.
Always learning, always learning. And you said at the beginning of our conversation about reading for 15 minutes a day, because it's always important to be open, to always be teachable.
Always. Yeah, I'm a huge Disney fan. And back in the day when the kids were small, we used to rent videos. Remember videos? You're probably too young.
I
do. Anyway, so we used to rent videos, and it didn't matter to me whether the kids stayed in the room or not. I was watching Disney. Like, this was great. We rented them ostensibly to keep the kids quiet, but I was sitting there like, shh, right? And there's a great, one of my favorites was Pocahontas. In that movie, she's running through the forest with John Smith by the hand, and she sings this lovely song, which I won't sing for you, but you might remember it. It's called Colors of the Wind, and there's a lyric in it. It says, if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you learn things you never knew you never knew. Really powerful lyric. If you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you learn things you never knew you never knew. And I always say to people, there's loads of stuff out there that I don't know and that you don't know. There's infinitely more stuff out there that we don't even know that we don't know in the first place. So how do we stumble across stuff we don't even know in the first place? And my answer to that over the years has been read books. Because if you read a book, if you read Joanne Callahan's book, right, you will learn stuff you never knew about sleep.
Yes.
For example, right? So that's why reading is, in my opinion, so life-changing, right? And it's, small amount every day. It's not about cramming. It's not about cramming. And by the way, going back to the sleep thing, if you don't mind, if we go back to that for a second.
Absolutely.
I know you're a bit passionate about it. But I'll tell you one thing that I don't think enough people do. I don't think enough people respect their own personal body clock.
Yes.
Right? I am useless at 9 o'clock at night. You know, if this was going to go at 10 o'clock tonight, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you. I'm absolutely useless. So I'm very aware my body clock is get to bed early and get up early. I have no problem getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning at all. And I'm sure there's people listening to this thinking, oh my God.
Yeah, there's people deliberately, actually human beings are the only species that deliberately deny themselves of sleep. So when they're feeling tired, they're like, no, I have to get this done first. So they're not prioritizing, they're not listening to their body. Your body is so intelligent. Like when you have pain, that there's a reason for that. You know, your body gives you all these signs, and when we listen to our body is just telling us what it needs, because when our body is balanced, it profoundly has these healing abilities, like really innate healing abilities. Like it's just profound. And like some people call it miracles, you know, what has happened with people, you know, recovering from illnesses and all this, when they have a change of perspective on life and what have you. And it's just so profound. So when you listen to your body, and if you're feeling tired, go to bed. And it actually, we do have routines, like, and we allow our body to go into this natural rhythm. It's so much more easier.
Yeah, but I think we should respect that. I mean, I respect my sleep. I told you earlier, I measure my sleep on my Fitbit. That's the first thing I measure. And so I know that I want to be heading to bed at 9:30 at night. And there are other people, my wife being one of those people, who is only coming alive at that time. And that causes friction in relationships, right?
Yes, true.
Because the last thing I want to do is have a business meeting at 10 o'clock at night with my wife, just because she's in the zone. I'm sort of saying, do you know what we'll do? You get up at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, let's have this business meeting, right? Because I'm at my best. So really we need to, you know, the routine we need to build in, and we need personal time. Is I began to learn to take my personal time, my reading time, my exercise time early in the morning before the kids got up. That's how I train myself to get up early, right? Well, somebody else wants to have the kids gone to bed, you know, and then they get it. They want time for themselves, right? Let's respect that in each other. First of all, let's respect it in ourselves. Put on my own oxygen mask first, right? Put on your own oxygen mask first.
Yeah.
And figure out what's your natural body clock, and then work to that. You have your work to do. Now, whether your work to do is say 9 to 5, and that is the start of your day, and you're going to give yourself personal time till midnight, or like me, you're up at 5 and you're gone to bed at 9. You know, just make it work for you. There's a tree outside the window here, and it's what I call my caw tree. There's about a dozen crow's nests in it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated by them, because as soon as it gets dark, even at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, nothing.
I heard you talking about this before.
Nothing. They just shut down,
Yeah.
right? And then as soon as it gets bright in the morning, they're up.
Yeah.
And in the summertime, they'll be out till 11 o'clock at night. And then it's quite amazing. So this the circadian rhythm. Nature, what's the word I'm looking for? Respects that.
Yes.
And for some reason, us human beings decided, you say, to defy it.
Yeah.
No, we'll keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I heard you saying there as well is relationships. So understanding your unique body clock, because we're all individuals and we're all unique. And like when we're in relationships, there may be somebody who's more prone to like a night owl. So we talk about night owl and morning lark. So that could be there in the relationship as well. So you can't force anybody or make them wrong. You know, you need to understand people's rhythms, I suppose, natural rhythms, but we all need to be responsible for, and when we're responsible and listen to our body, we're acknowledging our body's needs. And in doing that, we are more empowered. We are more empowered, and we've more control and more energy and all that great stuff as well. So there's something that I want to go back to when we were talking about role modeling with the kids, if I can. These days in school, children are learning their ABCs, and they're learning maths, and they're learning geography and all this kind of thing. But there isn't really, I suppose things are starting to change now, but it's very, very slowly, but they're not really been taught skills of how to self-regulate in terms of their own self-care, but also in terms of the business world. Like we're taught to go out and get a job, get a really good pensionable job, and then retire, you know, get married and all this kind of thing, you know. But that grates me because there's so much more out there than, you know, when you're an entrepreneur, you've been your own, look, there's pros and cons to it, but when you master it and master yourself and master and doing the work that you love and making those connections with people, because business is part of life. It's not your life. it's only part of your life. But what would you say to all of that, Colm?
I think it's very astute. I think you've hit the nail on the head. But I think I've been studying this for a while now. So, and of course my day job, school lunches. So I'm in the school marketplace every day for the last 17 years. And so I'll tell you what my response to it is. Firstly, the school system is designed to teach children how to memorize and spit out stuff by rote.
Yeah.
And they're measured in a particular way in a Leave Cert exam, which some will fail, even though they're genius in some other area. There are loads of different geniuses out there, genius types out there. And but the problem is, and no disrespect to teachers, I wanted to be a teacher myself. I, in fact, consider myself a teacher today. I just don't teach in schools in this particular way. But if I remember speaking to a school principal, a friend of mine, right? He says, Colm, we start school at 5 and we don't leave it till we're 65. Let's be honest, we don't have any real world experience. A teacher of 6th class children cannot teach you or I to be an entrepreneur, because by definition, he or she is not an entrepreneur. Actually, what do you call him? The guy who set up Supermax. Anyway, the guy who set up Supermax, his name escapes me just at this moment in time. He was a teacher. He was one of those very few teachers who broke free of traditional teaching and became a global entrepreneur. So the system isn't designed to teach people to think for themselves. And the people who deliver on that system, beautiful people that they are, vocational people that they are, don't have the skill set that you and I would have developed over the years. Most of them, right? Many of them.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a challenge. Therefore, we're back to reading. Your education will begin when you finish school and you start reading books. That something I've always said to kids whenever I get a chance to talk to kids in schools, which has been often over the years, is read books you won't be tested on. Because the school system is designed, you read this book because there's going to be a test at the end of term. Read books you won't be tested on, okay, is where your education will come in. So yeah, I think that's it. The school system, unfortunately, is unlikely to change in your lifetime or my lifetime, which is why people need to go out and seek for themselves. They need to go out and seek their truth, not the truth, their truth.
Yes.
Beyond the traditional system. And the people I feel most sorry for are the people who are trapped in this frustrating, hamster wheel we spoke about earlier, 9 to 5, don't know why they're frustrated to heck. Life should be better than it is. What's going wrong?
And this is the way it is. Yeah, there's no way out. Yeah.
No way out. And probably the answer is that they haven't given themselves time to go deep into themselves to figure out what they're about and what contribution only they can make. You see, Joanne Callahan, right? Your contribution to the universe so far, the most significant one so far, apart from your children, right, has been the production of your book and the teaching that you teach. Because that teaching, let's say you teach a young parent, right, through what you've learned, more about the importance of a good night's sleep, right? That parent, that's in my opinion 100-year work, and let me explain why. Because that young parent has little Johnny and little Mary, right? And they model that, back to role modeling, they model that for the next 20 years.
Yeah, and it's
so
all
that makes sense. Little Johnny and Mary, when they become parents, they're in a very different position than if their mother hadn't met Joanne Callahan or her work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And their kids start from way over there and go on for another 25 years, right? Here's 100-year work, my dear.
Yeah, absolutely. All the habits and going down the generations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And
so go you.
Yeah. And actually, I was going to share something really quickly when you talk about that. I was on I did a presentation in America a couple of days ago, and we did a Q&A at the end, and this guy was talking about napping, and he makes his child nap every day after school, and it's a struggle. It's a big fight. And I said, how old is your child? And his child was 6. And I said, maybe he doesn't need a nap. And he went, no, but I always nap. My mom always made me nap. So I thought that was the thing that you do. And I was like, well, children around 6 years of age don't necessarily need a nap in the afternoon. And I said, maybe try not forcing the nap and see. And I could see his head and the light bulb moment going off. And he said, oh my God, I'm doing this just because my mother did this.
Ooh.
And he was like, thank you so much, Joanne. I never even knew that. So back to, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah. But also back to the 100-year effect. So he was going to teach his child to do what his mother taught him to do, and that child was going to teach their child and all the rest of it. And now Joanne Callahan has come in and broken the pattern.
Exactly.
Go you. Go
Exactly.
you.
I was absolutely delighted. And he was like, and there was a second person on the call from Belgium. And he said, oh my God, my mother always made me sleep as well. And I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And now he's no children now at the moment, but it kind of changed his perspective and understanding of what happened in his past.
Yeah.
So that was another light bulb moment. So I was absolutely delighted. But yeah, you're so right. It goes through the generations. It really does. Colm, tell us a little bit about, you have your book, Feeding Johnny, which is a phenomenal success. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, look, thank you. So look, I always imagined, I had this idea in my head from years ago. I don't know where I got it. Probably in movies somewhere, that I could see myself in later years, wearing a cardigan and typing away, and I had this
pipe,
yeah, and I had the windows were open, and there was this sort of Indian Ocean breeze wafting through the hut, as I was a Hemingway moment or something, right? And but anyway, bring it straight back to Dura Doyle in Limerick, right, in the spare room, and I began to write a book because of Pat Slattery and Donna Kennedy. So Pat told me, you need to go to Donna's workshop, how to write a bestseller in 21 days, and I did. And 7 months later, I'd given birth to a book, and it's called Feeding Johnny. But for me, it was a bucket list thing. It was, I'd love to write a book, right?
Yeah.
What it turned into is in fact, it led to you and I being here today, let's be honest, because it turned into a book that was to do with my career, my journey. The failure of our first business really is what it centers on, and the lessons that we learned thereafter.
And just to say, Colm, I heard somebody, I was on a call, we all fail, right? But fail is part of learning. But it was an acronym, she said, first attempt in learning. You probably heard of that, but I just say that to people anyway. First attempt in learning
is fail. Okay, I hadn't actually heard that one. First attempt. There you go. Cool. Yeah, I always say sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. Professionals never lose. They either win or they learn. Okay, and you and I are professionals. So when something doesn't work out, we take the learning from it and we'll do better next time. So I wrote the book called Feeding Johnny, and it transformed everything, because people began to come to me and say, do you see what you're going through, what you went through there in chapter 4 or chapter 7 or whatever? I'm going through that in my business. Will you coach me through it? So I became a reluctant coach, to be honest. All right. Because I didn't think I was a coach, to be honest, right? But turns out I probably am. But I also don't want to be a coach either. I'm very, we spoke with this earlier. I'm very protective of who I am and what I'm about. And I don't want to be the best coach in the world, but I'm building a coaching business all on the back of writing that book. And the book, as I say, it started off in concept as a bucket list thing. Writing a book for me, and you and my mammy would read it, right? But beyond that, I hadn't given it any thought. But a handful of influencers came into my life. Dave Sheehan, you might know Dave Sheehan.
Yeah.
Yes. So Dave, I was on a webinar that he was running. He was living in Lanzarote at the time. It was 11 o'clock at night. I was gaga with the sleep, right? So I was in there in my pajamas.
Late for you.
Willing it to be over so I could go to sleep. But anyway, what I learned in that webinar was this thing could be bigger than I thought. This thing actually could travel around the world. So it began to change my thinking. You learn, things you never knew. Yeah. And it began to change my thinking, and it has changed my life. And I'm delighted to say that WIGWAM, which stands for Wonderfully Important Goals Weekly Accountability Meeting, is my coaching business.
Love it.
And it's beginning to sprout wings and will be a global franchise in time, because that's what I want to build. And I've learned the skills of how to scale a business. This is the important thing. I'm not self-employed, right? I'm a business owner, and I'm building businesses, and I've built Carambola, and it's trading away whether I'm there or not, thankfully. And I'm now replicating that. And I believe I'll be able to replicate it much more quickly because of what I've learned.
Yes.
And of course, thank COVID for Zoom, I'll be able to globalize it much easier and less expensively than I would have had to had COVID not happened. COVID trained us all, taught us all that this medium that you and I are engaged in here, Zoom, is a perfectly acceptable way of doing business. Up until COVID, it was the poor second cousin.
Yeah, absolutely. And all those cups of coffee can add up the price from going to the cafe, all those coffee meetings. So we can do it at home, which is brilliant.
Well, you mentioned you were in America the other day, and
Yeah,
now we know you didn't fly to JFK,
yeah,
right? And you were in America, and there was a guy from Belgium in there. Man,
yeah.
that's just fantastic. Like
And, and I was on another call there on Tuesday night, and I'm president for my Toastmasters club. And I was hosting a joint meeting that we arranged, and we had people on from USA, Texas, Germany, Australia, all over the world. I was like blown. There was 50 people on the call, and I was blown away by this. I was like, oh my God, but it was brilliant. What you can
that's the
cause.
that's the opportunity one thing that I find people sort of saying, people my vintage sort of saying, it's not quite the same now. I love the face to face. So my response to that is my son will be 28 next week. This is his world. He will never go back to face meet you in a hotel lobby. Why would he? Why would he? This is his 100%, right?
Yeah.
It can only get better from here, right?
I think there'll be more Zoom. I think there'll be more Zoom meetings than coffees. I think there still will be an odd few people meeting up in cafes. That's nice. But I think there'll be a lot more Zooms. It's so much more convenient, more cost effective. You're saving time traveling, all that stuff.
I mean, you're based in Dublin, if I'm not mistaken.
Hi, County Kildare.
That's right, there, right? So that's probably 90 minutes from where I am, right? So if I had to join you in your studio this morning for this meeting, and we kicked off at 9:30, so I would have had to be there for 9. Would have had to leave here at 7:30
Yeah.
to get there for 9, to have a cup of tea in the chat and settle in, to go live at 9:30, to finish at 10:30. A cup of tea out of there at 11 o'clock. I'd be back home by lunchtime.
Yeah.
Whole morning gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This morning, this is the third Zoom meeting I've had in that same time frame.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful.
Yeah. And
except we need to take breaks. We need to take Zoom breaks.
Yes, that is so important, Colm. That is really so important. On Tuesday, I had back-to-back meetings, and I actually squished too much in. And all day Wednesday, I took Wednesday off. Yeah. That's what I did, because you have to recharge your batteries. And like you said, I don't know if it was Jerry Duffy that you said 40%, leave a 40% buffer in your week. Is that what you said? Yeah. Because look, life happens, and you're not putting yourself under pressure to rearrange things if calls go over. Sometimes you might want to stay on the call if it's been very productive or whatever, and so like it really, really works, and I just love it. And look, human beings were made to adapt and to change with the environment that we're living in. We're actually made to be able to adapt, but I know there's a lot of people that are afraid of the change, and there's a lot of fear and uncertainty. But when you embrace what's happening as an opportunity for something new and possibilities, and if we look at life that way, and even outside of COVID, like outside of, whenever we have challenges in life, look at what's possible.
Yeah.
Rather than what I can't do because of this, and you can achieve so much more. And if you can visualize and imagine it, I believe that if you can see something in your head, you can make it happen. Mm-hmm. Like if you can literally see it in your head, you can make it work. Mm-hmm. And look, we fail an awful lot of the time, but have fun in the whole process and in the learning. And learning is so important. Even if you're 70 years of age, I hear so many people saying, oh, I'm too old to take a course. I've seen it in my family, and I'm like, oh no, you're not. It's so important to keep your mind active and to keep your mind working and to be open, because you're still living.
Yeah, well, the time will pass anyway. If somebody said, it'll take me 5 years to get my degree if I do it part-time. Yeah, so 5 years from now, you'll regret not having done it, because the 5 years will have passed anyway. You might as well end up 5 years from now with your degree if that's important to you. And it doesn't matter what age you are. It's,
Yeah, absolutely. That's so important. So Colm, look, we've talked about so many wonderful things, and I was really honoured and delighted to be on your Wigwam call this morning. I was always wondering, what the hell is Wigwam? What does that mean? Where did he get that from? But it makes perfect. Tell us again what it is, Wigwam.
Wigwam stands for Wonderfully Important Goals Weekly Accountability Meeting.
Yeah. And the goal setting is important, and that structure. So you're going through that, start with the end in mind. That's what we were talking about this morning. And then the accountability part. I think the accountability, because look, we're all real slippery, aren't we? We're really slippery, and we pretend that we've done our work, our echo, as we called this morning. And when you have that accountability there, it makes you do the work, but if you sign up, if you're responsible and you sign up for that, you really, you do have a drive and you have that intention, the will, the drive, the desire, all that to make it work. And accountability, I think, is a really big factor in that, Colm. What do you think?
Well, I think so. I think, I use the example. If you decide at New Year's that you're going to run 4 mornings a week, right? You'll do it week 1, you might do it week 2, week 3, it's raining on the Wednesday and you're thinking, you know what, who'll know, right? However, and here's where it changes. If you had decided with 3 other ladies you were going running 4 mornings a week and you were meeting down the local tennis club gate to go running at 7:30, you'd be there.
Yes.
You'd be there. You'd rock up like, I would have been here whether you're here or not, ladies. Rubbish, right? Yeah. We hold ourselves accountable to others. And that's what we do in Wigwam. We bring people together and we get them to go to confession basically every week, to admit to themselves. And you heard it this morning, didn't do my homework. Now, some of them tried to blame the teacher, which was shocking.
Yes, blame.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But so they go to confession. And they have to admit to themselves in front of their peers, I did my homework, I didn't do my homework. And there's no judgment in Wigwam. It's college, it's not school, it's not work. Yeah. Right. So, but look, it's exciting, Joanne. And come here, I'm regrettably going to have to jump off because I've got at 10:30.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Colm, it's absolutely been exciting and wonderful and such a pleasure. I just want to acknowledge you, Colm, for everything that you're doing in the world, for your family and for the people around you. And it's just so great to know you, Colm. Can you just tell us before you do leave, just one really important message that you would like to leave people with?
I thought we agreed.
To empower people to really.
I thought we agreed no hard questions.
Oh, this is
okay. No, hold on. No. Let me think.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay. And it goes back to what we spoke about earlier, I think before we went live. Win the week, win the war. Too many people, Joanne, struggle with this concept of time management. Oh, I'm not good at it. My life gets away with me and I haven't accomplished anything. Right? And this has taken, come here, I'm 58 nearly, right? So this has taken me 58 years to learn this stuff, right? Break everything down. All you got to do, dare I say it, is make next week work, right? Just focus on the week. And as you said, Jerry Duffy said, he said only schedule 60% of your week. So schedule 60% of your week, leave loads of white space. So when the proverbial hits the fan on Tuesday morning, when you're supposed to be doing something, you don't get bent out of shape about it because you can take it and put it into Thursday afternoon where you left some white space and it'll still get done in the week. It doesn't have to be done. There's very little that has to be done on the day, today. And we put ourselves, and this goes back to people not going to bed at night because I didn't get my day finished.
Yeah.
It's because you didn't leave enough white space in your calendar. And the other thing, as part of that, the week is the perfect patch of the fabric of life. I recommend people schedule the 7 days. It's not a 5-day week. And it's not that you would work. I actually finish my work at lunchtime on Friday. This is new, by the way. Lunchtime on Friday, and I don't go back to work until after lunch on Monday. I've decided for me, I want a 72-hour weekend.
Nice.
Okay. So
and you can do that as a business owner.
And you can do that a bit, yeah, absolutely. Well, that's taken a long time, but you see, I couldn't do that as self-employed. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Come here, John. We could talk about this for days.
I know. But listen, tell people where they can find you.
Online, ColmO'BrienMotivation.ie, I think it is, .ie, I'm sure it is, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to put all the links in the show notes as well so people can find that. Listen, Colm, I'm going to let you go. I'd love to stay on for another hour, but look, we've got things to do.
Bring me back on next year and see what's changed.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have a follow-up. Fantastic. Okay, Colm.
Yeah, pleasure. God bless you. Mind yourself.
Bye-bye.
Bye.